Hello, and thanks for joining the FrostySith channel today for this new episode of the garden tours. We'll take a look at the garden. The heat has been beating us up, so stay tuned. We'll take a look. All right, we're starting over here in the herb and grape area, flower area, and we've cleaned all this up last week, and we have planted out some seeds that need to overwinter, poppies in particular, all along the back and the corner. Other seeds that need to be cold cured before they'll actually germinate. The grape's doing great. We've been staying on top of the pruning there. That's looking good. Cleaned up and deadheaded some of the plants here, so everything's just looking great. I haven't watered yet this morning, but we'll get around to that. I do think that we still have a few of the chives are still alive down there. Sun's not up enough to get the fountain going, but that's been working great. The insects and birds have been loving that. We have some naked ladies pop up here, and that's great. The zinnias are doing okay, but I haven't watered any of these the entire summer, at least not intentionally. They may got a little overhead spray. So they're starting to look a little beat up because of just the excessive heat. We're just now starting to get below 100 degrees. So I think for the next week, we only have 2 days that are going to be over 100, and the nighttime temperatures are starting to fall. So hopefully we'll get some rain soon. We do need to harvest a number of sunflowers and collect seeds for next year and that kind of thing, because these are ready. All right. The cherry tree continues to do great, so I don't really have any more fear that it's going to die. I mean, we've had lots of good new growth, so that's doing good. Let's move over and take a look at the peppers, and they are just coming on like gangbusters. These are the orange spice jalapenos, and I think there's even some ripe ones starting down there. So we'll have a good crop of jalapenos, both the orange spice and the Zapotex on the other end. We have been trying to stay on top of the cantaloupe vines, keeping them pruned back. We've harvested, I don't know, maybe 10 pounds of cantaloupe so far, and they just continue to come on. We'll look at some more of those here in a minute. We've got more peppers coming on here. These are the Ken Star Lemon Starburst, and they're just looking really good. This is the yellow 7-pot Primo, and I mean, that is way more super hots than I need, at least I think, but that's fine. Cantaloupe wise, some of these cantaloupes were actually pretty small last week, and they're starting to come on pretty good and fill out. You know, we had a couple last week that just all of a sudden ripened up, but there's tons of little ones coming on still, and so pinching these back and keeping them pruned off is the way to go, because I've only got, I think, 2 vines in here that are making all these, and honestly I probably just need 1. So, oh look, that's starting to get red. It's kind of orange right now, but that'll redden up, and then these are got a lot more of them coming on here, and these are hot. Foodorama Scotch bonnet, I think, is what that is. So this is all looking good. The pink jazz tomato started from seed there is doing fine. I'm not sure if it'll make it before our last frost, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll get some tomatoes off of it. And kind of the same with this patty pan squash. I mean, technically it should make. We had some other volunteer cantaloupes you can see there that are coming on pretty good. So there's going to be plenty, and we continue to prune these back too. So we get all the runners off those. We don't need any more of those. This sunflower is doing good. The blueberries are doing just fine, putting on lots of growth there. So I don't think we're going to lose any of these 5 blueberries. I think they're going to make it. I haven't pruned the watermelons this morning, but I will come out and prune those. One of them already has fruit set, and we've started to prune it pretty hard. This one, there's 3 plants in here, and this one plant, we're just waiting to get a female fruit on it, and then we'll start pruning off the other runners and stuff. But this one, I don't see this morning that there's any fruit there, female flowers or fertilized fruit. This one had a female fruit on it. Oh, right here. Right there. So not certain yet if that's pollinated or not. The flower is done, so it'll either start to shrivel up and we'll wait for another one, or it will start to grow, in which case we'll start trimming some of these other runners off. This one does have at least one pollinated fruit on it right here, and we have started pruning this one pretty significantly. It's got another female flower here, and so we pruned one node down from that, and I'm not certain if this one got pollinated or not. If it does, we might leave it and just have 2 here, but that's what we're going for, is a minimum amount of fruit, and we'd like to get these ripened up before our first frost. The peanuts, this is our first year growing peanuts. This is Valencia, and we'll just see how it goes. I think, you know, it has just now started to take off and really put on a lot of growth. It's a little bit shading out some of the ginger. I got ginger here and over here and on the backside. But we'll just see. I mean, this is kind of the experimental bed. So we'll come back and maybe prune that tomorrow. So let's move on. Okay, so okra. Need to come out and harvest okra again this morning. We've got nearly a gallon put up in the freezer already and sliced up and frozen. You can tell here we have started, the coons got into some of the corn. You see there's a corn plant back there that they pulled down, and we tasted some corn. So this weekend we'll probably grill a few ears of fresh corn. And this is Cherokee White Eagle corn, and it's huge, but doing good and tasty too. And it's a beautiful purple white color. I don't really want to pull out a new one. Let's see. No, this is kind of dried up. The amaranth is doing well. I think it's just starting to get to where if you work real hard, you can get a few seeds out, but it's not ready to cut and shake all out yet. So this particular bed has a couple of volunteer cucumber or cantaloupe as well. And I'm not sure if this is mosaic virus or what that is, but you'll see the leaves are kind of yellow and a little splotchy. So because I'm not sure what that is, we will not compost these vines. We'll just get them hauled off in the bin. But there are lots of cantaloupe in here that are starting to ripen. You can see the color is starting to turn to yellow. Some of them are still green. There's a green one right there beside that yellow one. And they're doing really well. There are a number of cantaloupes. They're kind of buried in the leaves there. Yeah, there's one. Another one that's pretty yellow. And if you look back where the cantaloupe is connected, I know you can't see that, but there's a little tendril. And once that tendril dries up, that's when you really got to be paying attention to the ripeness on it, you know, for harvesting the fruit. So see, like that is starting to dry. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a tendril here and it's starting to dry, but it's not dry all the way back to the vine. So this one, unless it starts splitting, we're gonna let it go for a while, because they're great when they're actually ripe. So the Tabasco's doing great. We got starting to ripen there on some of these. See the red ones? So those are doing good. This is a yellow 7-pot Primo, and it's doing good as well. Not certain. Well, I don't think we have any ripe ones on here yet. Maybe one over here. Yeah, just starting to ripen, so I don't know if you can see that in the sunlight. There we go. And you can just see that it's kind of a yellow-green, starting to yellow up a little bit. So we'll have some ripe ones there soon. The rest of the peppers are doing good. Well, some of the habanadas there are starting to ripen. So this is all doing good. We haven't had any of the cilantro come up yet that was planted from seed here. But we may replant that because it's been 2 weeks and we've been keeping it moist. We'll water it again this morning. So from this angle, you can kind of see the tomato trellis, and we've been trying to prune that. I'll show you some close-ups of tomatoes here shortly. But we've gotten this bed completely redone and ready. And by redone, I just mean we covered the chop and drop mulch with compost and then put a thin layer of Pro Mix on top just to kind of act as a mulch, honestly, and keep it wet. And we'll probably plant into that. By the end of next week, we'll plant into that. So these peppers, Pequeño, I think is how you pronounce that. They're doing good. I still don't know if they're yellow or red because none of them have ripened, but they're looking good. This is one of the clones. Oh, look, there's some crabgrass. Get rid of that. This clone is doing good, and that's cloned off of one of our carbon tomatoes that produces the really large tomatoes. The Buena Mulata's doing great, and we got tons of these. I think there's 15 plants, and they're all loaded up and starting to ripen. The pimentos, same story. They're doing fine. We do have some we need to come out and probably harvest on that. So those are all looking good. Peach Cherapita's looking good. Basil doing great. And so here we're on the back side of the tomatoes. And again, we can't eat enough of these. We've been canning up a few of them. But we got more to do to stay on top of that. And look at that one. And this is not a carbon. This is the Prudence Purple tomato, and that is ready to harvest. I need to get the snippers and come out and do that. All right, we've got tons of tomatoes here to harvest. So I think I'm just gonna put down the camera and we're gonna harvest some of these. Come back in a second. All right, so we picked about, I don't know, 10 pounds of really nice slicers. We got a combination of Carbons and Prudence Purple. And then we got a bunch of chocolate pear tomatoes and other cherry tomatoes, and that's plenty for today. And there is plenty left. So we're gonna have, probably have to do a batch of tomatoes and put those up and can some either crushed or chopped tomatoes. This bed has been prepared and resting now for a couple of weeks. I think this coming week will be 3 weeks. One of the things we did is we did put waste trimmings from the carrots into this, and some of the tops have made it up through the Pro Mix, through the compost and the Pro Mix. And so I've just been pulling those out whenever they come up. That was just, I guess, silly on my part, but live and learn on the putting carrot tops back in your bed. So we'll put those in the compost pile, and these will get transplants put in it. We've got some starts sitting out here that are just getting a couple hours of protected light. And we've got 2 different types of purple sprouting broccoli. We've got, I think, 3 types of cabbage that are a little slow, and we're going to experiment with trying to overwinter some protected onions and leeks. We'll see how that works out. It's an experiment. If it doesn't, that's fine. Again, the tomatoes are looking fine. We still need to get to this bed and treat it with compost and Pro Mix, get some of those cucumbers pruned up, get these vines pulled off because we're cucumbered out. We're going to let that basil go to seed. We've got some extra peas in this pot where the zucchini or crookneck squash was. We'll see if those come up. Just need to keep those damp until they come up. The North Georgia Candy Roaster and butternut, which is all intermixed in here, they're fine. I mean, you can tell they've got, you know, some stress because they're getting some pressure from squash bugs and heat just in general and lack of water. But you know, I hate squash bugs so much that I may not grow winter squash next year. Of course, I say that every year, and then we eat them throughout the winter, and I change my mind. But see, there's some right there. There's some young nymphs that I need to come back and get. And same with eggs. It's just a hassle, and I don't like squash bugs. This El Oro de Ecuador is doing fine. I still don't have any ripe peppers on it. I mean, they are growing, but I don't have any ripe ones there. So, haven't tasted that one yet. We have been harvesting quite a bit from the rainforest pepper. We'll talk about it in a minute. And I have planted peas all down this trellis. I think I left 1 slicing cucumber vine. You know, we're still getting cucumbers, more cucumbers than we need. I may harvest these pickling cucumbers today and make some relish or something with them. But we're really done with cucumbers. We're cucumbered out. We're gonna cut these vines off at the base as soon as these peas. So there's one. There's a pea starting to sprout right there. And there's another one. And there's another one. So soon, probably this weekend, we'll cut the cucumber vines. We'll harvest what's on here, cut these vines, get them pulled out of the way. We do have a seed cucumber still hanging from the vine, and that's fine. So this is how we do it every year. And we just let one go, And even if it starts to rot, that's fine, because the seeds will kind of self-ferment. And they work great. And you can see how vigorous they are. And honestly, if we left these, they would continue to produce late into the fall. And that's our experience with this strain. We grow it from save seed every year. We still got plenty of slicers, market more, that we're dealing with. I still haven't seen any beans on our bean plant. And, you know, these vines are healthy and vigorous. So I don't entirely understand that. We've got potatoes there that are in the ground in that raised bed back there. And we've got sweet potatoes here, and they must starting to be doing good because they're starting to push up. The tubers are starting to push up the soil and mound up. None of them are exposed, but they are definitely doing that. So we've been trying to water these a little bit, but haven't been pouring a lot of water to them. They look real healthy, even though they got a little bit of bug pressure, but they seem to be doing fine. Now, this rainforest pepper, which is excellent. We're going to plant a lot of these next year, is my prediction. And we've been harvesting, you know, peppers off of this now for a while, and they just continue to ripen, and we'll probably make some rainforest poppers this weekend with cream cheese and bacon and grill them and that kind of thing. We talked about the corn. We have harvested some huitlacoche fungus and put that in the freezer for later. But we just had that one kind of flush on 3 or 4 plants, and that was it. And we'll grill up some of this corn this weekend on the grill. And but they're real pretty purple and white kernels. And while they're fresh, we only got a few days where we can do that. We'll grill those up and eat a few, and then the rest we'll let dry and grind those later. We haven't planted in this yet, but I need to get something in there. We'll be harvesting some kale soon and freeze drying it. It may be actually 2 weeks before we get back to this, but those are the highlights. And this bed I talked about earlier, we prepared this, and it needs to sit probably at least another week, and then we'll probably do a combination. So the brassicas will go over here, get planted into this, and we'll probably do seeds in that other bed with carrots and beets and other things. But that's it. We need to get out here and pick some cherry tomatoes, obviously, and these are super delicious, but at least we've gotten a little more control on the pruning with these. You can see from this side the beans coming over the top. Well, the bean plants. I still don't see any beans. So again, I'm not sure if it's grasshoppers or the heat or what it is. And then there's a bee. I flew off. And let's see, did we talk about this one? Because this weekend we'll probably do some taste tests on this one with some of the yellow, or they're actually Kinstar Lemon Starburst is what those are. Looks like this one is starting to go bad. Yeah, overripe. So I probably need to eat that other one this weekend, and we probably won't save seeds from this because it looks like it's getting some mold or fungus on the inside, but that's too bad. I should probably be wearing gloves, but I haven't tasted these yet, so I'm not certain how hot they are. Okay, well, let's go take a look at the figs and wrap this up. So the blackberries are doing good. We've had these in the ground a couple weeks, and they're growing all over. It's probably about time to tip this and force some side shoots. It's starting to get side shoot growth floricanes, but you know, it's going to live, I think. Same with this one. It's going to live. It's put on a lot of new growth here on the top, and it's probably time to tip that soon and force some of the lateral branches to come out. I think this bottom branch as well is putting on new growth, so those are going to live. They're going to make it. All right, we'll wind down with the figs, and they're doing great. The brown turkey staying alive and growing, and the Desert King is just really starting to, you know, really put on some growth. So that's good to see, because you know, we've only planted it there, what, less than a month, so it's doing great. Let's move over and take a look at the Chicago Hardy. All right, this is the Chicago Hardy, and it's doing really well. It's putting on a lot of growth. It's actually putting on a lot of figs. I'm not sure if they're going to make it to ripen or not, but hopefully you can see in there we got figs coming on. They're actually coming on in each branch, crotch of every node there. So the Chicago Hardy is looking great. The zinnias, these are just one of my favorite. They are so easy to grow, so low maintenance, so easy to save seed from. So we'll just let these go, and we'll be left with a cone flower shape, like a cone of just seeds, and make our own house mix from these and other zinnias that we're growing to grow again next year. Well, that kind of wraps up the garden tour today for August 12th, and thanks for joining. If you want a little extra content, you might check us out on Instagram at FrostySith. We post content of things that we're doing just in everyday life there pretty frequently. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, and make sure to click the bell so that you get notifications every time we update new content here on the channel. And as always, whenever you can, get up, get out, live a little. See ya. All right, this is our garlic escape flour pickles ferment. Let's see if get any bubbles.